Hey, good afternoon, More Medic One. Today I've got a Kawasaki engine on the bench, and it's definitely got a an oil leak at the valve cover, and let me show you why they leak so bad. This is cylinder number 2, and if you take a look, I've already got this valve cover cleaned up, but it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolt holes. This span between this bolt hole and this bolt hole is pretty wide, and what happens is there's just not enough clamping force to retain this gasket and make the gasket seal in the long run. Yes, it seals up fine whenever the engine is new, but when that gasket shrinks and gets hard because the engine's gotten hot, especially because these are propane engines run extremely hotter than a gasoline engine. It also has a lot to do with the thickness of the valve cover gasket. Here is a 1/4 inch ratchet wrench. As you can tell, the thickness here is not thick at all, and the gasket itself is even thinner than that. There are no locating pins, so therefore you just have to be sure that when you put this on with the bolts, you don't get it pinched. You need to get it on there perfectly. But here's a good trick that I like to use. I don't like using a whole bunch of silicone on an application like this, but however, I will use this stuff right here, Permatex Spray Gasket. It's a copper based gasket, and just dust both sides of your gasket and let it dry, and it fills in any voids and it keeps the gasket pliable throughout its lifetime. Give it a couple light coats on both sides. The most important part of this whole job is making sure everything's clean, your valve cover surface is clean, and your engine block is clean, free of any oil. Once they've had time to dry, what I like to do is just come over here and place the gasket on the valve cover, and it's going to be a little bit tacky, and that's good because it'll hold the gasket in place as you try to manipulate this back onto the engine block. As you can tell, that gasket's not going anywhere until you get ready to bolt it back on. Go ahead and get your valve cover ready to be put on. Slider in place. Careful not to move the gasket. Get all your bolts started by hand. Just use common sense when you tighten down these aluminum valve covers. You want to go in a crisscross pattern here, 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 and lastly here. The torque on these are 90 inch-pounds, but what I like to do is just go until it stops and then 1/8 of a turn, and that will be absolutely plenty. Till it bottoms, and just 1/8 of a turn. That's all you got to do. Well, I hope that helped shed some light on these Kawasaki engines with this style of valve cover. They all seem to want to leak like a sieve after they have a couple hundred hours. But while you're in there, you might as well adjust your valves, etc. But we'll call this one good. Go ahead and do the other side, get it tore down, and do the same thing with that gasket. If y'all have any questions about Kawasaki engines, let me know. More Medic 1. This is the FH series valve cover, and we just don't have problems out of that style of valve cover. It's just got 2 bolts in the center, 2 center posts on the cylinder head, and the gasket basically gets clamped to the block by these 2 bolts right here. Anyway, have a good day. More Medic 1.